Want to play a new deck using those fancy new Anniversary 2020 box cards? Want to destroy every card your opponent plays with little or no cost to you? Want to go wide with a lot of free cards you don't even have to pay for? Then have I got a deck for you. Babidi, leader of the Agent of Destruction, is a leader which on the front side says, treat all Agent of Destruction cards in your hand as if they had no specified costs. This is going to be important for reducing the cost of our Agent of Destruction cards, as well as playing Agent of Destruction of different colors. When this card attacks, add up to one card from your life to your hand, then look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to one card with Agent of Destruction in its card name to your hand, then shuffle your deck. When your life is at 4 or less, you may draw one card, then switch one energy to active and flip this card over. The back side, Majin Buu, leader of the Agent of Destruction, says active main once per turn, choose one of your Agent of Destruction cards with energy cost of 2 or less in your hand and play it. This is going to be important for allowing us to put our free Agent of Destruction cards in play, and as long as we have our Babidi card, all of our Agent of Destructions are 2 or less. Active main once per turn for 3 of any color energy, choose one Unison card with Agent of Destruction in its card name, play it from your hand with 3 markers on it. This is going to be so we can play our Majin Vegeta Unison card a turn early, as well as not have to meet the requirement of 3 specific green energy. Babidi, Overseer of Destruction, is the key linchpin card of this deck. It's a 1-drop with barrier, and you can only have one in play at a time. It turns all your Agent of Destruction cards into no specified costs, and it reduces the cost of all Agent of Destruction cards by 1. This is going to be very important because Agent of Destructions have specific costs, and Babidi and our leader both allow us to ignore that, as well as the fact that it turns our 3-cost agents into 2 costs that we can play for free. In addition, a lot of our agents wouldn't be good if they cost 2, so it turns them into 1 costs. In order to make sure we always have our Babidi, we play 4 Hachiyak, Vengeful Agent of Destruction. It has active main for 1, discard this card from your hand, play up to 1 Evil Wizard Babidi card with an energy cost of 1 from your deck or drop area. The reason we need this is so it essentially gives us 8 copies of Babidi for us to play on turn 1. Plus, the Hachiyak has, when this card is played, choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost 4 or less, send it to its owner's warp, then place up to 3 battle cards from your opponent's drop area at the bottom of their deck. So this also has edge case uses against graveyard effects or against Shin Shenron. The other key card is Vegeta Resolute Agent of Destruction. This is our Unison. It normally costs 4 specific green, but with our leader we can play it for 3 generic from our hand. It has double strike critical and auto, choose one card in your hand and discard it. When this card is played, choose all of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and KO them. Then, for +1, it simply gets 5k power, and for a -5, we can discard 3 cards from our opponent's hand. While you will not get to that -5 very often, since we're usually starting at 3, it is a good option to have. And critical double strike, 20k, and the ability to wipe our opponent's board for 3 is all extremely powerful, and one of the ways you're going to be able to fight other aggressive decks. One thing you'll notice is that once awakened, our leader does not draw any cards, so in order to compensate for that, we are going to be using other draw engines and ways to get cards from our deck. The most important of which is Turles, Chaotic Agent of Destruction, who, for 2, is a 15k barrier unique. When this card attacks, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add 1 Agent of Destruction to your hand, then shuffle. This is a key card that we can usually play for 1 and is going to compensate for the fact that our leader does not draw. We are also going to be playing 4 of the Agents of Destruction Strike Back. This is a 1-cost extra card that is reduced by our Babidi, so it's free in that case. It has permanent. This card gains Agent of Destruction in all areas. Active main, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, add up to 2 cards with Agent of Destruction and their card names to your hand, then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. And you can't activate copies of this card for the turn. If you added cards to your hand, add up to 1 card from your life to your hand. So this card does a couple things for us. 1, it's a simple draw engine, as a lot of the time it will get us 2 cards from the top of our deck, since only 10 cards in our deck do not have the Agent of Destruction tag. It also allows us to awaken if we need that, and will very, very rarely completely miss. The last card I want to talk about to gain advantage is also a negate, and that is Garlic Jr., Immortal Agent of Destruction. It is a 2-cost, 1 with Arbivity. Counter attack, negate the attack, and play this card. When this card is played, played up to 1 Agent of Destruction card with energy cost 2 other than copies of this card from your deck with its skills negated for the turn. Then shuffle your deck. The normal thing we are going to be getting is a Lord Slug, which is our super combo, or we could also get our Turles if we don't have one. But either way, we're negating attack and plussing 1. Speaking of Lord Slug, he is our super combo. He is unique. When your opponent activates a counterplay skill, they choose 2 cards in their hand and discard them. So we are sacrificing the ability to draw a card for the utility of having an extra 15k attacker that we can summon from our deck with Garlic Jr. It's also an agent, so we can search it with any of those effects, and this is a super combo we are often going to actually place onto the field. We're also playing Android 13, Exterminating Agent of Destruction, which is a very powerful counterplay that we can do for 1. If the battle card being played with energy cost 3 or less is placed in its owner's drop area instead of being played, then play this card. Then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and discards it. Also, when he's played, you can shuffle a total of 2 Evil Wizard cards or Agent of Destruction from your drop area to your decks. So not only can he cycle our Agent of Destructions back to our deck, including our super combo, but he takes away a card from our opponent's hand and stops a 3 or less from coming into play, all for 1 energy, which is extremely powerful. Broly, Invincible Agent of Destruction, is a 3-cost, active main for 1, discard this card from your hand, add 1 card with Agent of Destruction in its card name from your drop area to your hand. So if we need a specific agent, we can get it back. When this card is played, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, energy cost 5 or less, and KO it. Then look at up to the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 card among them, and then place the remaining cards in your drop area. So not only does this card filter for whatever card you need from your top, even something that's not an agent, it can also KO something and is 20k power. There are 2 older Agent of Destruction cards that we are going to be playing. The first is Android 13, Agent of Destruction, which is a 3-drop 20k critical, has active main for 2, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and KO it, then your opponent chooses 1 card from their hand and places it in their drop area. This card is very important to our overall strategy, because a lot of times we'll have extra energy that we either can't spend because we have a low hand, or don't want to spend on things we don't want to put on the board. Any 2 extra energy, therefore, can immediately be turned into KOing a battle card and or discarding a card from our opponent's hand. This card also has critical, which can come into play in a lot of situations. We're also playing 2 of Lord Slug, Agent of Destruction. This is a 3-drop 20k that simply, when it comes into play, makes our opponent discard a card. You notice there is an overarching discard effect strategy in this deck as well, as you're going to want to empty your opponent's hand while playing aggressively. Since one of the best ways to counteract this deck is board wipes and destruction, we're going to be playing several successor cards so we can consolidate our big boards into boards that are harder to remove and or get paid off when they're removed. First off, we're playing Cell, Devourer of the Masses, which has successor for green-yellow. When you play this card with successor, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and KO it. Then your opponent chooses 1 card in their hand and places it in the drop area. It also has auto. When this card is removed from your battle area by an opponent's skill or KO'd, draw 3 cards. So not only when this enters the battlefield can it kill something ignoring barrier, which is something we didn't have previously in the deck, it also discards cards from our opponent's hand, and if our opponent plays a board wipe, we get to draw 3 cards. We're also playing Topo, Mortality Surpassed, which is a green successor for green-yellow barrier. When you play this card, or when it is placed in your drop area by a card skill, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, negate that card's skills, and KO it. This is our way to get around cards that have indestructible or other effects that we don't want triggering when they're destroyed. It also has a payoff where you get to destroy an extra card when it leaves the field by a board wipe. We're also playing Cell Xeno Unspeakable Abomination. This is arguably the best secret rare in the game, and should honestly be played in any green or yellow centric deck. That being said, if you cannot afford this card, seeing as it is roughly 75% of the cost of this deck in a single card, simply play another copy of the other successor cards as a budget option. Next, we are going to be playing a few other utility cards that are not Agent of Destruction in order to augment our deck. 3 copies of Flying Nimbus allow us to defend ourselves, as well as being extremely good in the mirror match and against other aggro decks. We're also going to be playing 2 copies of Giant Ball as a simple utility tool that draws cards and allows us to defend ourselves a little bit more. Babidi, leader of the Agents of Destruction, is a great deck for old and new players alike. It has a lot of decision trees and options, but at the same time, it is very forgiving. Plus, most of the cards come in the new 2020 Anniversary box, so it's a great way for you to start off playing the game. This is $5 Lunch signing off. Go out there, play some Super, and have some fun.